All right, let's go ahead and back up a little bit and I'll show you what's going on in Brenda's quilting studio today. Isn't this just lovely? When I have it up on the quilting bed, I can do a good amount of distance on the pass right here. She's on the third pass. She'll have 4 of those. Each contains 2 rows, so she's going to have 8 rows all together in order to finish this design. Speaking of the design, it's one of my new favorites, my Daisy Tower. Just a sweet, sweet design, which looks amazing on this quilt. I'm doing it in my Western Sky color of thread, kind of a rosy pink. Pulling out a lot of the colors that are in the quilt right here. Backing is that lovely mottled blue right there. Now let's talk backing a little bit. When you bring your backing, frequently I will have a client bring the backing and it has been pieced. That's great. That's fine. Wonderful. If it's pieced, it's always nice if I can run the piecing horizontal, given the option. There are many reasons I would run it vertical, but if I can run it horizontal, that's always the best. Then I just have to watch it once as it runs up the machine, and it doesn't cause looping and hammocking in the center of the quilt with a big ridge here that has too much tension. No, we don't want that happening at all. Let's go ahead and move the quilt clip off the belly bar right there, and I'll show you when you are pressing when you're connecting your backing, I highly suggest that you press it open. You're certainly welcome to press it closed, and there are pros to each way of doing it, but my preference is to press it open. If it isn't pressed before it comes in, I will end up spraying it with my distilled water and finger press it, but I always suggest that you press it before bringing it in. That is ideal. When the seam is when the back has been seamed, I'm going to work really hard to make sure that the front of the quilt does not end right on or near that seam, because I really don't want that ending up in the binding of the quilt. That's just big and bulky and messy, and we don't need to have that happen. So I'm going to do my best to make sure the quilt is way past that system and that's incorporated into the backing, which is always a great way to have it. Now, speaking of, let's talk about the back side of the front of the quilt. Let's talk about pressing in that way. We'll pull the quilt up here and take a look. Ooh, la, 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 la. It's always a party when I see a beautifully pressed back side of the quilt. Oh, my honey is just so happy about it. You don't have to press your seams open if we're just talking regular seams on cotton fabric, but if you have any seams that are thick and bulky, if you have any flannels, if you have t-shirt quilts, I highly suggest you press those open. Like right here, this section is pretty thick and she pressed it open. Of course, she pressed many of these open and I am certainly happy about it. Doesn't hurt my feelings at all. So if you have questions about pressing, put them down below and let's have a conversation. Also, with all this white fabric, you can tell that we can see through that a little bit. You want to make sure that your other threads are clipped before bringing it over here to Brenda's Quilting Studio, because those threads, especially in the darker areas, can shine through on the white. And once that happens, honey, they're kind of there and they're stitched in, and nobody want to have that happen. So be sure that you clip those threads before bringing them over. Nice square quilt. You can see how well it's cascading over the edge of the quilting bed. I know that she would have measured her border from someplace in the center of the quilt and trimmed it and then attached it to the quilt right here. Bring some over to Brenda's Quilting Studio. I'll help you choose an amazing design that will complement your quilt as well.